making a way for you. Yes, yes, making a way for, yeah. Yes, every season in my life should be bringing me closer to what I should be. Yes, making me stronger in the winter snow. Oh, making me shine in the darkest.
And so I would say to young folks, don't be in a state of denial of the racism and sexism, but don't let that block you. Don't teach your children that you have to be twice as good as a white. That's an awful thing to teach your child. That's like saying because you're black, white America has a right to change your dollar for 94 cents. But we used to get 50 cents, and before that we used to get nothing. Young folks have to say, we don't want more change for a dollar. Excuse me, we want a full dollar's change for a dollar, or this cash register will never ring again.
Yes.
I would also like for young blacks to understand that about 83% of all employment happen with small businesses. And excuse me, if you don't have a small business, then you have nobody to work for you. And I would say to young blacks, get into entrepreneurship. We will never catch up with white America till we get into business, because there's a thing called tax write-offs. And if you have a job and come together, 10 of you, and open up a corporation and have somebody run it, you hiring somebody to run it, but you have tax write-offs. 98% of people that fly first class on airplanes would not be there if that wasn't a write-off. And yet, on that first class, they gave away last year $800 million, almost $1 billion of free whiskey. But if a welfare mother asked for some apple juice for the baby, she's laughed at. And so I would say entrepreneurship, and then understand that we will never survive as a group until we get into communities and not neighborhoods. A community is, I control the police, the banks, the schools, the firefighters, and I control the flow of the money. And I have no problem when I go in a Jewish neighborhood and the shop owners are Jewish, and I go into an Italian neighborhood and the shop owners are Italian. I have a problem when I come in a black neighborhood and the shop owners is not me. A Korean has a right to come in and buy my shop for $30 million more than it's worth. That's good business. But if we decide that we're not going to do business with that one, then he'll have to sell it back, or she'll have to sell it back to a black person for $1 million. Yes. And then the money circulates, and that's how you change. We've been so busy dealing with the hurt and the pain and the misery and glamorizing a hand few that have made it, that we have never really looked at, like they say, your role model. If you haven't got a role model in your house, you should fall on your knees and pray to God, because something is wrong.
Yes.
And so I would say to young folks, it's not about alcohol, but it's hard for me to say that to you when a 5-year-old got to reach past mama's beer and papa's wine to get some mayonnaise. I would also say to young folks that the #1 drug that will wipe you out is not cocaine, it's not heroin, it's marijuana. And they deliberately make that a recreation drug, but it stays in the muscles, it stays in the blood, and it will wipe out your memory bank. And also, this is the first time in the history of TB that TB has always been known as poor folks. It's the first time that TB is not running rampant in the ghetto. It's running rampant in middle-income white America, because it's the marijuana that they spray, and that's no accident. And so I would just say to young folks, you have to reevaluate everything you've been taught. I would say to the black folks that just because a black person is 90 years old don't mean they have wisdom, and you need to.
I'm going to talk about 14 amazing benefits of oregano oil. And this is one of the reasons why Italians rarely get sick, because they use a lot of oregano oil on their pasta and their pizza. And I'm just being sarcastic. The type of oregano that you want for therapeutic benefits is the wild oregano oil. They take 200 pounds of oregano, the leaves and the stems, and they will concentrate it into 2 pounds of this oil. And it has 3 very powerful phenols or phytochemicals that have interesting properties. We're going to talk about those. All right, so the first benefit of oregano oil is its powerful natural antibiotic properties. It's antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral, anti-parasite, anti-yeast, anti-candida. So it kills pathogens in your body without killing your own microbes. So it's really, really cool. You just want to make sure you take a little bit at a time to gradually go into it, because when you kill some of these microbes, they can have like endotoxins within them, which actually can stir up an immune reaction. Always go very, very small. Like just take 1, see how it goes. And then, if you're fine, maybe take 2 or 3 a day. For those people that have antibiotic resistance, this is the solution. And there's also some interesting data on oregano oil addressing biofilms. And that's a whole other topic for another video. But biofilms are microbes that hide in little calcium shells, and they're very hard to get to. So oregano oil with maybe a good chelator to break up the calcium would be a good remedy for that. So oregano is a very powerful antioxidant to get rid of free radical damage, the complication from the environmental oxidation and damage on your DNA. So oregano slows down that process of oxidation. All right, 3, it's a great antiseptic. A lot of people mix it with certain things to clean their house, so it can actually sterilize certain things in your environment. It's good for acne. Allergies, very beneficial for allergies. And also you can see benefits for asthma and lung issues in general, bronchial type stuff. Now, a lot of times bad breath can come from a fungus or a microbe. This is why oregano oil is good for bad breath. Bladder infections, colds, the flu, which is viruses, sinus issues, especially chronic sinus from funguses. If it's all year round, chances are it's a fungus among us. Okay, number 11, ear infections. You would take a drop of oregano oil and you can actually put it in your ear, and it's really good for ear infections in children and in adults. Mixing with garlic, you'll smell like a pizzeria, but you will kill off that microbe. All right, we talked about the bronchial 13 hidden infections like Epstein-Barr virus that goes into remission and comes out of remission when you're nutritionally deficient or you're getting older or you're run down. Boom, it comes out and all of a sudden you get chronic fatigue. Well, this is really good for that. It'll give you energy because it actually can help put this thing back in remission. And then we have Sibo, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This is a situation where the microbes that should be in the large colon are now in the small intestine. And so when you eat food, the microbes basically steal the nutrition and they ferment the fiber in the small intestine, and that creates a lot of bloating. So this is really good for this condition. You'd also want to add betaine hydrochloride, apple cider vinegar, and do fasting. That would be very good for that. All right, guys, there you have it.
Go back to Lars Kennedy in London. Lars? Lars, are you there? Can you hear me? Oh my God. Tina. Tina.
Heritage Foundation brought pro-life activists from very different worlds together to see how the pandemic is either helping or hurting their cause.
Brian Fisher's Human Coalition tries to change the minds of women planning to get abortions. They administered to almost 16,000 women in the 6 weeks before the COVID lockdown forced the organization to close its 7 pregnancy centers and just go to phones and internet.
In the 6 weeks afterwards, that call volume jumped to almost 24,000, a 48% increase in calls from women who were in some sort of crisis.
Yesterday, you tweeted that 12 babies were rescued from abortion, bringing that to a total of 16,414 babies rescued to date.
On the other hand, everything happening over the internet these days is giving abortion activists a chance to push abortion pills being mailed straight to women, bypassing doctors.
And Planned Parenthood's acting CEO, Alexis McGill-Johnson, calls this the silver lining of the pandemic. If your position is abortion everywhere without delay, you've got to solve the problem of making that possible when most doctors won't participate. And so what they're seeking is you and a stranger who you're talking to through your iPhone. Chemical abortion is completely unsafe at home. There's no possible way to make this safe.
On the legal front, some pro-life counselors outside abortion clinics have been arrested for breaking social distancing restrictions.
Well within the provision.
It's a state statute.
It's well within the statute. We are doing everything.
But Alliance Defending Freedom lawyer Ken Conley said as some were hauled off to jail in Charlotte, their outreach with an ultrasound unit still saved lives.
One woman was seen in the mobile care unit, had an ultrasound and decided to keep the baby, and another woman as well. I don't think she was in the mobile care unit, but she decided to keep the baby as well as a result of the efforts of the people out there that day.
So even as the pandemic goes on, so do pro-life efforts to save the unborn. Paul Strand, CBN News.
Yeah, you should be grateful. He is making a way for